So we're looking for All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 91 of the Fuel Pod. Mikey, how you doing this evening?
I got to tell you, I thought Max was going to get him, but that Ferrari held him off. Good job on that intro, man. I really liked it.
Oh, thanks, buddy. So crazy day today, even outside of racing, where we had, and I'm sure people are probably going to watch a lot of Formula One podcasts, but how many of them were directly in the path of totality of the solar eclipse today? Guess who was? These guys, us guys, we were. So had a solar eclipse today. All last week I was cracking on people that were like, it's going to be totally dark. And I'm like, dude, it gets dark every day. But I got to tell you, just wait a few hours. It'll be dark. But I got to tell you, it was pretty cool. Chad sent me a picture of his son, Link, standing, I guess, on the patio. I don't know if you saw it, but in his little spaceman outfit, his little NASA outfit, man, just looking up at the stars. Hopefully, he had his glasses on, so he was being safe. But yeah, he had his little spaceman. Unless you're a 30 Rock fan, then it's not Spaceman. It's Spachimin. But only 30 Rock fans would get that one. But in Formula One this week, man, had a crazy weekend. We had the Japanese Grand Prix, which is one of my favorites and I think this is not because of the racing, it's because of the fans. I don't think anybody shows out. And when I say show out, because Monza, fans of Ferrari show out at Monza, no doubt. but nobody. I mean, basically, Japan turns this into a cosplay event. I mean, I saw people with like a full diorama of a pit stop on their hat. I saw, a lot of Formula One car hats. I don't know. Did anything catch your attention?
Man, it really hit me, and the Japanese fans are the absolute best fans in the world.
Oh yeah,
and it kind of made me sad in a way, thinking about us here in the United States. You go to a football game, you go to a baseball game, from the biggest leagues down to T-ball.
Yeah.
Half of the fans are frowning.
Oh yeah.
Half of the fans are smiling. It just depends. I looked around the circuit. I did not see anyone that wasn't smiling.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about watching Japanese baseball during the COVID year, and smiling Japanese fans.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you and I have an added little feature because we both like rally. And the Japanese rally is almost no different as far as what the fans do as far as showing out for their favorite manufacturers and teams. And of course, they have a lot to be happy about with rally. I mean, 2 of the 3 manufacturers are Japanese, and both of them do very, very well. But, we had the Japanese Grand Prix, and, I remember talking to you earlier in the week before the race that it was really going to come down to weather, because it's a complete hit or miss shit show with Japan. You're either going to have, those torrential rains, or you're going to have beautiful weather. And the race this year was a lot earlier than it typically is in the calendar. It's typically 2/3 of the way through the calendar after Singapore, I think, used to be, which of course was the race where Carlos Sainz beat Max Verstappen.
There we go. So, I got it early tonight.
Got it early tonight. I got it in. Which of course that race is completely different from Australia, where he also beat him, which was last week. So, we were at Japan. We didn't have great weather every session of the weekend, but we had it where it counted in qualifying in the race. So, watching quali, I don't know if you stayed up to watch quali. I ended up having to watch it on my phone because I was also watching something. I was multitasking. But, we had not really a crazy quali. The only head shaking thing for me was Charles Leclerc. And I don't know what was going on with that car. And it didn't sound like he had a lot of complaints. And I know after the race, he kind of blamed the quali on himself, which was odd because typically he doesn't do that. But I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't really there for quali. But, I mean, he showed up for the race. He had qualied so bad that it really, was kind of not recoverable.
Well, what were they holding him for so long and letting him out there with a one shot? You got one shot at it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of shock factor when you're talking about one stop or one shot qualifying, man. I mean, all you can do is just tear it loose, is drive the wheels off of it. But, I don't know if they were working on that car. Didn't really see that part. I think I was too busy tweeting out about Logan Sargent, doing Logan Sargent, the new Latifi. Actually, I really think Latifi might have been a little bit better, but because Latifi did finish a lot of races.
Yeah.
Most of them he finished in the wall, but he did finish.
He's gonna quit. He's gonna be the first driver to crash, step out of his car, and just walk away.
Just keep on walking.
Just walk out through the crowd.
Just walk. Just keep on walking. Just not even stop until somebody picks him up. He gets mom and dad send him an Uber, and get him back across the ocean to home, and then he'll be on WEC or IndyCar or IMSA or something next year. Where all good F1 drivers go to bite it. So, which sucks because those series in and of themselves are wonderful series anyway. And I'm just glad those drivers can find a place where they are successful and can still drive a car. That being said, so I didn't really catch all that. And then, of course, we get to the race. The lights go out. We start the race. It's looking pretty good. I think it was turn, let's see, 1, 2, 3. It would have been turn 4. One of those sweepers. And folks, I know anybody that watches this later and you want to comment on it, that's fine. So basically, we had Daniel Ricciardo and Alex Albon get into it, both of them into the wall. Is Danny Ricciardo in trouble at VCARB? Yeah, he is. Was he a little aggressive? Yes, he was. Should Alex Albon have been trying to go around the outside without trailer park girls in high-speed turns, sweepers at Japan? No. I mean, I don't know how many times we said you don't go around the outside on high-speed turns. Not when you're not fully equipped, and Albon was not fully equipped. So he gets edged off the track, and with Danny, and Danny spins out, and they both end up in the wall. And we end up with a red flag race that started at midnight, which if you're an American, you're already hating your life. And I saw the memes from Great Britain about them having to wake up at 4 a.m. or something, and they were all bitching and moaning. All the TikToks are like, oh my God, I got to get out of bed at like 4 to watch this race. Well, welcome to our world. 70% of the year, that's what we're doing. So
all right. So
go for it.
Danny and Albon.
Give me your 2 cents. Danny and Albon. Here
First,
we go.
I want to say, Cody, I know you're going to listen to this. And
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I right? So Albon got such a jump on soft where he was going to pick up 3 positions. And he's just supposed to back out. Oh, never mind.
Yes.
It's so hard to do. It's so hard
Max
to do.
Verstappen would have backed out of that.
So
Fernando Alonso or Carlos Sainz.
You're saying it's Albon's fault.
Yes. So you basically got 3 kinds of drivers. The ones that commit when it's right, and they finish the overtake. Then you got the ones that won't commit. Charles Leclerc used to be one of those guys. He wouldn't commit. Like, he'd only pass if he had DRS on a flat. Then you got the guys like Albon, who's like basically just exactly what you said. He's sitting in the car. He's like, I got a chance to get a 3-car overtake because they got a wonderful jump. But guess what, shithead? You're not in the right place on the circuit to be able to perform that move, especially in a Williams car. If he had a Red Bull, I'd have been like, yeah, dude, do it. But he just doesn't have
He could have backed out. Is there anything Danny could have done?
Yeah, Danny could have gave him a little more room in the middle, although Danny was getting edged out on that left side, and I still have not seen who that was because I haven't went back and rewatched it. But, Danny was getting pushed to the right, although at the very tail end, right before the contact, Danny did swing out, and he really didn't have a choice.
Okay, so is there we'll find out, but is there anything the guy on the left could have done?
Well, yeah.
Why there's the guy who took it the worst.
Well, you should never be 3 wide at Suzuka going into the S's. That's a mistake by itself. Somebody's going off the track, and it just happened to be Albon. Here's the shitty thing. So you're Danny Ricciardo, and this is where I'm not defending Danny. Because anybody that works for a living knows you've probably had these kind of conversations before with bosses. When you come in, you go, you know what? This time it really wasn't my fault. And that's when the team principal looks at you and says, yeah, I get it. But every time something happens, it's you in it. Right? So, where do we make the correction? Mm-hmm. And then you got Liam Lawson standing over in the corner, blowing on his coffee.
Yeah.
I'm here. Hey, just ignore me. I'm just standing here in the corner.
He's always in sight.
Yeah. And Danny's got 1 race left, China. And that's where it is. I mean, and I think for him to keep his seat, and he still might not, is A, he has to qualify ahead of Tsunoda. B, he has to outdo Tsunoda in the race. And C, he needs more than 1 point. Which all 3 of those things in one weekend with a VCARB car, probably not possible. But if anybody can do it, it's him. If he pulls his head out of his rear end. Because he's like rookie Brett Favre, man. One weekend you get 4 interceptions, one weekend you get 4 touchdowns. So he's one of those guys. And I don't think he'll do it. And I think this is the end. And that sucks because I really enjoy watching him drive. But I'm not going to defend him.
On commentary.
Yeah, and he would be great on commentary and as an ambassador.
Him and Gunther have their own show.
Yeah. Absolutely. Anyway, that's enough of that. One thing I do want to talk about was during the red flag, they brought Valtteri in for a pit stop, and then later Zhou Guanyu, and Stake F1 literally labeled these normal pit. They're like, we're finally back to normal pit stops, and both of them were over 4 seconds. So I don't know what their effing version of normal is, but 4 seconds is not it. So, you know, even Alfa Romeo back when they weren't Stake, were churning out somewhere between 2 7s and 3 4s at least. And then the past 2 weeks, of course, they've been in the 54-second range. So I get it. They cut 50 seconds off, but 4 seconds is not normal.
What's the deal there?
I think they got a rookie. I think they got a rookie team. I don't know, man. It's got to be something like that.
Shit.
They look lost. Even when the pit stop's over, they're like, oh, is it over? Oh, we're supposed to come back in the garage. And, yeah, man, bring the old tires back into the. Oh, okay. I mean, they don't look like they really know what's going on. So, you know, that's that. But anyway, we finished the red flag and we had a restart. And right at the beginning of the restart, Gasly is on in the middle of the road. Ocon's over on the left, and Gasly love taps Ocon right at the beginning of the restart. And I don't know if his car kicked to the left, and because that can happen on a restart, but either way, they made contact. And of course, Ocon calls it in. He was nice. It was like, you know, Pierre got into me a little bit, checked me for damage. Yeah. And you and I were talking about.
I think that was Gasly just tapping him on the shoulder, like, "Hey, you want to just take each other out so we don't have to drive this piece of shit all day?"
That's a fairly good point. I'm going to buy that for $1 because you and I were talking about it before the show. But like, if you have Red Bull on one end kicking on every cylinder, on the complete ass end of that, you have Alpine trying to figure out what a cylinder is. Right now, they've got a car that is as heavy as a school bus, and they can't figure out how to lighten it up and stay with it. They're in trouble. I mean, they're in real trouble. And then on top of that, they got like a 15 celebrity investment group. And who told them that was going to be a wise business decision?
Hey, you think that's too many? All the celebs and everything are trying to have too much input from too many people.
Well, I mean, you look at what Ryan and McElhenney did with Wrexham Football Club, and I'm not going to say I'm sure it was extremely difficult decisions that they made, and they did throw some money out to, you know, beautify the team up and beautify the pitch up and work in the town and the community to strengthen their morale. And in that part, I get that. You can't really do that in Formula One. Chances are you're walking into an already institutionalized, you know, process flow that they've been doing. This is what we've been doing week in and week out. And then, of course, right off the bat, they're getting rid of people, which is typical Wrexham FC stuff, because they did that at Wrexham. Of course, it paid off. They got out of the cellar. And, you know, and I can't speak for the other, whatever it is, 11 or 10 celebrities that aren't McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds, but I'm sure they're trying to take what they learned from doing that and push that into Formula One. And maybe they can do it, man. If anybody can, they probably can. It's not going to be this year. They're talking about this year as a rebuilding year. I think this year is getting you to a rebuilding year. Yeah. I think next year is your rebuilding year. But, you know, I'm not there. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors in those meetings. But they need. Next
year is just going to be a weird year for everybody. With 2026,
the new race
is going to be different. So it's like, it's 1 year. What do you do?
Well, it's going to be the same thing they did before this car. The 2021, before we switched to the 2022 car, everybody kind of, you just held what you had till the end of the season, waiting on the and I think that'll be similar. But if anything, I think that strengthens the point that you got to make sure this shit's locked down for this year. or you're going to be hosed, because you're right. You can't afford to put whatever your salary cap is into next year's car, knowing it's going to get a complete rework the following season. So really, I think this is the year every team has to. Of course, Red Bull doesn't have to worry about it. I don't think Ferrari and McLaren do either. Aston Martin. Did you hear about Aston Martin? Like Lawrence Stroll making like some kind of absolutely astronomical, insane offer to Adrian Newey?
No.
So there's scuttlebutt that Adrian Newey held a couple of job prospect, not interviews per se, but sat down with a couple of teams, Ferrari being one of them, and Aston Martin. And apparently, I mean, basically, Lawrence Stroll offered him the house.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, those guys got to get that stuff worked out at Alpine, because that is a complete shit show, man. But moving on, I want to discuss the other V-carb driver, who goes by the name of Yuki Tsunoda. Especially at Japan, he's here at his home race this past weekend. And he showed out for being in a V-carb car. Would have been great if he'd been in a Red Bull car. I really think he probably would have been on the podium. But he had an absolutely, I know this is going to totally contradict what I said about Albon a minute ago. But Yuki, twice in the sweepers on the outside, gets Gasly on one overtake, and then later on gets Hülkenberg on the outside in the sweepers. And I'm going to call that homeboy. That was a homeboy discount right there for being able to get that done. But he was cooking through there, and was able to secure a point this weekend, which I think is wonderful for him and for Visa Cash App RBF1 team. So I know you're a big Yuki fan. What did you think?
That was the best part of qualifying. Me and my daughter was watching, and okay, you make Q2. And when he knocked Danny out for Q3, oh my goodness, that was the best. And we were watching him roll around in his favorite spot, 11th on the, all the whole race, to see him come in 10th and get points again. That was fabulous for Yuki.
That's good. And it's cool too that you and your daughter have somebody you guys can both kind of get behind. So I thought that was pretty funny. Although I thought they did him wrong on the national anthem at the beginning, because they had a bunch of Japanese kids there to stand with each one stand with an F1 driver, and they put the tallest one with Yuki.
Oh no!
So and she was almost as tall as he was. So I felt like they did that shit on purpose, which to me seems like a very American bullying thing to do. They had all these little short Japanese kids with all those other tall ass drivers, Nico Hülkenberg, Verstappen. Then they find the one that's 5'4" and give her to Yuki. So it looked really strange.
That's funny, yeah.
I mean, it looked
like always root for Yuki, forward. Man.
I do too. You never know which Yuki you're going to get. He's gotten a lot better with the temperament, and his post-race interview. I always look at or listen to post-race interviews, because I think it goes a lot to what the mentality of the driver is. And Yuki's was pretty good. Didn't stutter a lot. Didn't a lot this time. So it was nice to see him actually get through one of those. So that was pretty cool. Lando had a couple of good overtakes. The one I'm talking about the most is on Hamilton, where he went around the outside on the S's. And I think that's simply based on pure speed. He got a lot more throttle coming out of the previous turn and was able to get around him. It was still fun to watch. But McLaren on the whole felt like, to me, and I'm not saying this because you're a McLaren fan, man. I don't, because now I have to deal with two of you, because Jason's also a big McLaren fan. But it really felt like they slipped off this weekend. Piastri, you got Piastri admitting that he just wasn't there this weekend. And Lando talking about they didn't have the pace. So talk to me about McLaren.
Yeah, so Piastri, it was kind of like the same mistakes over and over that he was making at the same place, and it is what it is. He had a bad day, but Lando, I think, came down to strategy. He came in, and as soon as they called him in, it's like, it's too early. It's too early because they're not going to be there in the end when you need them. And that's exactly what happened, where Ferrari nailed their strategy with Carlos Sainz and zipped right past him.
Yeah, that is a
and because Lando came in early.
Yeah. And thank you for the segue. That was a perfect transition because I am going to obviously talk about Ferrari. And I want to talk first about the maturity level of Charles Leclerc in this race, because I've always been kind of hard on him. But to realize where he was in the race and what he could and couldn't do, and them to bring him in and then put him back out on the circuit in second place and allow him to hold that spot while Sainz came in and pitted and then worked his way back up, I think, from ninth. And by the way, some of those overtakes he did getting back up there to the front were lights out, unbelievable good. And that's part of what my little subheading is tonight on my little sobriquet here is the new meta, because I have a feeling this is your new podium pretty much consistently. And we've already seen it twice this year, haven't we? And then even when Verstappen wasn't on it, you still had Sainz up there, but those three in whatever combination, or at least one of those threes, I feel like is going to be on every single podium. And, I think we can safely, unless something crazy happens, we can safely say that Carlos Sainz is, dude, he's on par with those other two standing there next to him on the podium. That I've got blocked out with my big jug head on purpose. But, I just can't say it enough. And we talk about the driver market. It's always a lingering thing in our conversations and even on the show. I just don't see how he can't just name his ticket. And it really feels like wherever Carlos is going is going to be dependent on if Max Verstappen stays at Red Bull. Because people talking about Carlos Sainz sliding into Checo's seat, Carlos could slide into Max's seat. I don't know what your thoughts are, but that's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't think Max goes anywhere. So that being said, that second seat, it's hard for me to see a Sainz or Alonso or any of those guys wanting to be there. Why would you want to be second
at Red Bull?
Yeah. Are you going there to win a championship? Because you'll have to wait your turn.
Yeah, and I don't think Carlos Sainz is one of those. I think he's built a pedigree to where he can say, I'm not coming here to play second fiddle. I will try to beat whoever my teammate is every week. And probably will do it. So I really think it'd be funny if they did a one-on-one shootout with Max and Carlos both in a Red Bull and see what happens. It'll never happen, but still, that would be funny. So we're talking. We got Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari. I still feel like they're getting rid of the wrong driver. I would love to see Carlos stay at Ferrari because I'm going to hate having to root for wherever he goes next year. Could he end up at Aston Martin with Alonso? Does Lance Stroll stay?
What are you going to do with Lance?
Does Lawrence fire his own kid? There's so much days of our lives, man.
That may be Adrian Newey's part of the deal. Like, okay, but he's got to go. You got to throw that into.
Yeah.
This sack of gold plus he leaves.
Oh, plus Lance leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I was Adrian Newey, I'd be like, listen, I'll come here for half what you're offering, which I'm betting is still double what he's getting at Red Bull. But I get to pick my drivers.
Yeah.
Deal? And, both of those guys, Adrian Newey and Carlos Sainz, are in tremendous bargaining positions. I mean, absolutely tremendous bargaining positions. I mean, Adrian Newey is a car deity now. I mean, he's,
Oh yeah,
he can name his ticket. And Carlos, like I said, he's driving way above his weight class. So that's really, really good stuff. But anyway, man, all in all, I thought it was a good race. We got China coming up. We haven't had China for a few years, so I'm looking forward to that. I kind of dig that track. There are parts of it I hate more than any other F1 circuit, but some of it's good. There's a couple of tremendous DRS zones there, so it could be crazy if Carlos can stay close to one of the Red Bulls. It could be a unique race. There's a couple little tight areas, but it's still a cool circuit.
I'm pulling it up. I don't think I've ever driven this one.
Yeah, you ought to get you a practice Grand Prix going there. It feels like a lap there. It takes forever. It is flat. I mean, it's not terribly flat. But it's not Spa either. So, but yeah, it's a unique circuit. Big wraparound turn, big straightaway coming through start finish.
Big straightaway.
Yeah, gigantic. So, I mean, not Miami or Vegas long, but still quite a bit. If you come off of that with some heat and you got DRS and you're within 0.5, you're probably going to pull off the overtake. So it'll be fun to watch that one. So, for all you fantasy people out there, you might want to get your high speed guys in there, your flat out straight line speed guys in there. I'm just going to keep who I have and just pray for the best.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, man, Mikey, that's all I got tonight, buddy. Unless you had anything else.
Yeah.
Any F1 Academy
stuff?
I think
no, not this week. Just the funniest moment of the weekend was in FP1. I'm about 5 minutes in, and they say that the whole Williams debacle of Albon crashing his car, and they give it Logan's car to Albon last weekend or in Australia. Well, they get to the track and they fixed the chassis. They patched her up, and they gave it to Logan Sargent. Albon still gets to keep the good car. It wasn't 20 minutes later. As soon as I heard that, I went in and told my daughter. I told her the story. We both got a good chuckle. 20 minutes later, Logan Sargent tore that thing up again.
Yeah.
So, and then
Albon tore up the other one.
Yeah. And so this is only two. There's only so much Bondo and duct tape you can put on these things, and they will hold together. Will Williams finish the season?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, Logan's going to be out there in Tomater at some point.
I'm wondering if they're going to finish the season.
I don't know. I've never seen a team completely run out of funds, but if any team could, it would be Williams. They're operating on probably the least of anybody. I don't even think they get close to the salary cap. So
yeah,
it sucks when they finally get the salary cap that they wanted and they can't even get close to it. So you probably look at teams like Red Bull and Ferrari and Mercedes and Aston Martin, and they're probably right there. McLaren, probably right there on the hairy edge. Of course, Red Bull went over it a couple years ago with some sandwiches, but too many sandwiches. But
yeah, they did. I just looking forward to the end of the season when Williams pulls out there on the grid and they're just a seat, rusty rim, and a piece of wire.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me leave you with this question. Is Logan still driving that car at the end of the season?
Oh no.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on the same train with you on that one. Yeah, I think he's going to be out before summer break. And I think Danny will be out.
Again, that sucks because that's our United States guy.
Here's another question for you, since I just talked about Danny. If Logan gets shit canned at Williams, nobody else wants to go there. Does Toto Wolff talk them into taking what's his name, the other kid that he likes a lot? Freaking, I don't know, Aunt Nelly.
Yeah, something like that.
Does he talk them in? Of course, Aunt Nelly is a Mercedes junior driver, and as much slack as VCARB gets for being junior Red Bull, Williams has been junior Mercedes for 15 years. Do they give it to Aunt Nelly, or do they drop it to Danny to finish out the season in a Williams? That would be crazy.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because nobody else is going to want that seat. I don't even think Aunt Nelly wants that seat. So, I mean, that'd be pretty funny if an F2 driver turned down an F1 drive because he doesn't like the team. That's like a junior college football player that can name his ticket in the NFL, but he goes ahead and stays the senior season because he doesn't want to go to whoever the last place team is. I mean, that's pretty crazy. So, anywho, guys, that's all we got. 36 minutes on the dot. Let's call it a night. We got China in what, next week or a couple weeks? What are we looking at?
I think there's a break in there.
Boy, it'd be nice if there was. I could use a break. Schedule. Son of a freaking pop-ups on the internet.
April 19.
Oh, yeah, we got a break.
We got a break.
So the next 3 races, we got 2 tracks that we didn't go to last year. 2 of the next 3 races, China and Imola. Of course, Imola was because of the floods.
Imola was a flood, yeah.
And then we got what I think is the shittiest race on the calendar, Miami. It's so boring.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to call it a night, man. And let's, everybody watching the show, make sure you follow us on X at jneil729 and at 2diddy4. And we will see you next time. Thank you all.